Hello and welcome back to another week at DroneDJ. We are a few days late, but we finally have some good news on the Senate update on the Counter CCP Drone Act. Let me start sharing the screen and we can talk about details of the story.
Yeah, so we've been following this for a while, and I mean, last time we did an update, it was pretty much it's moving off to the Senate, and it will take a bit. But we finally have the version of the National Defense Authorization Act, which is what this bill is attached to, or supposedly attached to, um, and it made it out of the Senate committee and it's moving to the House for a floor vote. It could be today. It could start being today. It could be next week.
But the Senate did remove the Counter CCP Drone Act
It
from the bill.
did. So out of committee, the bill does not include any sort of provisions to ban DJI drones from being new DJI drones being added to the FCC. However, that doesn't necessarily mean it's in the clear. So there's two options here there's three options technically for how this can get brought back. It can be added as a floor amendment. So pretty much what happens now after the committee, this is pretty much what happens politically wise. The committee does all their work. They write up the bill. They get the praise bipartisanship because they usually are pretty bipartisan on these things, and they release it as like the best bipartisan bill ever created. And they go to the floor and they debate the bill, and anyone at that point can add amendments to the bill. And this is where partisan politics pretty much takes over, and they can add anything partisan wise they can want as long as they have the votes. What happened in the House? Pretty much it went from being the most bipartisan bill to being everything Republican on it, pretty much. So they can add whatever they want.
Right. So good news is it's not the Counter CCP Drone Act, which essentially is the DJI ban. It's not on the bill when it goes to the floor at the House.
Yeah.
However,
So
can there
can
be?
get added.
Is there a possibility? Of course, there always is a possibility.
Yeah.
If we look at a couple of things, one is DJI has released the official story. Saying it's a good news, that's a positive development for sure. They're thanking users and anyone who's taken effort to make that happen. And they also talked about what's the latest and is it over and how can people continue to follow the development and commit to the effort on any updates. So there's always going to be, I think, if you ask me, as long as DJI is Chinese, they're producing drones and they're selling them in international markets, especially in states. There's always going to be the political pushback, right? But if you ask me, at what point would they become critical? I believe it's going to become critical when there is an actual worthy alternative option from US or related countries that's not China, right?
Yeah, so anything, China wise, as long as there is tension between the United States and China, I wouldn't say like as long as DJI is Chinese, as long as there's tension between US and China, which seems to be where we're at for a while. That's a pretty bipartisan agreement that we want to, hinder anything Chinese at this point. So it getting added as a floor amendment is totally on the table from anyone. I think Republicans have the majority, so they're the ones who are leading this, amendment. So they could add it and possibly get voted. Although they actually don't have the majority. Sorry, they have 49 seats versus 46. So they don't have a majority. They just have the most seats. The final option where this can get added in is because the Senate and the House bills have differences. They have to be reconciled at the end of it between the two. And there is a chance that this becomes a bargaining tool, and they can say, "Hey, we'll give you this if you put in, the CCP Drone Act ban." So we're not out of the clear. DJI pretty much cleared that up in their statement they made that this is still a possibility. Of course, then the possibility is, does this come out? Even if it doesn't get added, does this come out as its own bill? Like in probably not anytime this year because we're too close to elections at this point, but like next year, does it come back?
And there's always a possibility.
Yep, that's kind of the big questions. But I don't know. How do you ban a drone when there's really no alternative outside of other?
That's why I believe the decisive factor would be when there is an alternative when there is like a worthy alternative, right?
But
Especially the existing US manufacturers, if
yeah,
some of them comes out with a really good drone that's pricing wise, capabilities, tech that can really replace, a DJI model, even a single DJI model, right? Doesn't matter if it's a camera drone or enterprise, at least one of them.
But then the next question is who? Who would do that? Because
That's the question.
Skydio was the big, person who was supposed to do that, and they discontinued all of their consumer drones.
Civil consumer.
And you have GoPro, who would be like the perfect person to do this. But then if they fail a second time, like they had karma and it failed terribly. So the stakes of getting this right the second time are so high for them that is it even worth the risk for the company? The only one I guys think of outside of that is Insta360, but Insta360 is Chinese as well, so that doesn't even count. You would have to then look at maybe like a camera maker, Nikon or Canon, out of who are outside of China.
We were talking about this where a camera maker makes sense, and the major players would be the Japanese manufacturers.
Yeah, they have the ability to make the cameras, they have the ability to design the cameras, and actually make good cameras. Just whether or not they have the ability to produce, like good enough drones. It would be interesting. It would be interesting if DJI would license, like if they get fully banned, right? There's no, they sue and they can't get out of it. Like they're done. Any drones are done. It would be interesting if DJI would license their technology to like Canon or it's Hasselblad. It's Hasselblad. Hasselblad's not Chinese. They're owned by
DJI,
but they're based out of Europe, right?
Right.
So DJI could license their technology to Hasselblad, and Hasselblad could make the drones, and then they just manufactured in China. Because as long as it seems like the issue is ownership in China, not necessarily manufacturing in China. Because manufacturing in China was the issue, then iPhones and any smartphone would be banned. Most technology items would be banned. So it's just whether or not they're owned and they operate in China. So if they're operating in Europe, I don't know, doesn't seem like anyone would care about that.
That's along the same story with when we covered the story of Anzu, right?
Yeah, so Anzu, whatever it is, has that technology,
how is it
out of DJI
drones?
And it doesn't seem like that's probably going to be affected because the ban specifically states new products, added by DJI. Like it calls out DJI specifically, and it is only for new products.
And again, keep in mind, right now, this is just the FCC, the Counter CCP Drone Act. They can always approach it from different angle. For example, we're already seeing a story where the lawmakers, they can seek different angles because DJI does have products that are not drone. So they're looking at adding them to, the probe of Chinese smart vehicles, which along that note, DJI did produce a drive system for mountain bike, and they had been producing sensors for a while. Actually, the detection sensors, the LiDAR detection sensors on the smart vehicles. So they are getting into that market. And this year they started producing portable batteries, right? So they do want to evolve into other dynamic markets that are not drones. So there's always other angles they can come at from different DJI products.
Yeah, and I suggest heading over to Electric, our sister site, and checking out their coverage. Since we handed off, we wrote about the leak, and then we handed off all the actual coverage off to them because Michael Toll over there is a expert in these electric bikes, and it's interesting because they seem to really want to diversify. This year seems like to be the year for DJI to diversify their products.
From out of nowhere.
Yeah, it came out literally out of nowhere. Same thing with the DJI Power. Like, kind of just like we got a heads up, like we got a embargoed press release about it, but like that really just came out of nowhere. It wasn't until like the day or two beforehand is when like leaks started coming out about this one. And so what Michael Toll talked about was like it seems like your motors in aircraft, they're very efficient motors, and they have very efficient batteries, and that kind of just like coordinates really easily into electric bikes. You just kind of scale up the motor,
and it's also a control system, right?
Yeah, it seems like all the technology for a drone is is just scaled up for moving a wheel instead of moving a rotor. It's pretty much what it is, or moving a chain pretty much. So it seems interesting that they move to this. You know, they're moving to this. They're moving the batteries. They're like,
It is also making it. The question is this making it more difficult for any country to try to shut down DJI because they will be infiltrating so many different markets? Or is it easier to get to DJI because there are so many different angles they can attack?
The thing is, I don't know if these two, like the power and the I don't even know how you pronounce this, the Aviax, whatever it's called. I don't know if these really make it more of a threat or more of a powerhouse company, because yeah, they're probably good. You know, they might be phenomenal products, but they're entering very competitive and very well established markets already. So you have DJI Power, right? That that comes in with a solar panel and a battery. That's not a new product. Like you can look at like 6 other products that make just as good products as what DJI would make, maybe even better. Probably, in my opinion, probably better. We'll see. Actually, next week I'll be camping all week, and I actually just got the solar panels for the DJI Power. I still have my DJI Power 1000, so I'm taking that and the solar panels, and I might actually even get Starlink as well, and we'll see how that powers it for the week. But and this as well, like the electric bikes are a very competitive market, especially from China. Like there's a lot of Chinese manufacturers, a lot of US manufacturers, a lot of European manufacturers that are just kind of all competing for their niche and what, in their market. And I don't know, like, is it good? Probably. It's probably a good product. Will it make it like, I don't see them dominating this market like they dominate the drone industry though, just because there's already competition.
I agree.
And this competition is doing very, very well.
See where DJI is going this year. I don't see like a clear direction from a company, and there really isn't a statement. Normally bigger companies like Apple has their conference every year, right?
Yep, and they talk about what they do.
Yeah, so all the big companies, at least you have the CEO or someone coming out stating strategy, development, what's the end goal and the style for the company. We don't see that from DJI.
Yeah, the closest thing we had was Airworks, and that was like a year and a half ago was the last time they did one, and that was pretty much only enterprise products. So
and there isn't a face from the company coming out to say this is what
it was their VP of communications like ran that whole thing, and that's pretty much it. And he's now left, and so they don't have a VP of communications one. They just have I think they just have a manager and a director. They just had a new communications manager come in too. So they don't really have someone who wants to do like a formal update every year.
Definitely, it's puzzling for sure. So far this year, besides the DJI dock, we haven't really seen a full new drone, right? Like
and there's no big. I mean, like there's been potential leaks of like a Mavic, was a Mavic 4, but that could be anything. Like that, the first leak is nothing until the second leak comes out. So if there's only one leak, that could be just it could just be like a testing of an Air 3, because it looks very much like an Air 3.
Yeah. So I mean, if we count down the product line, from DJI, then we are on par pretty much. We're on schedule with the Mavic 4 supposed to come up. Right.
And we totally forgot, like earlier this week, I think it was like yesterday or the day before, they came out with a new transmission system for SDR, which is not standard definition range. It's something radar.
Right here, SDR transmission.
So DJI have released, is it 4 products this year so far? And only one of them has been a drone. So
Avata 2. There's the
Avata 2. That was the drone. And then did the Power come out early this year or late last year?
Late last year.
They only come out with 3 products.
North American market this year, but it was released last year.
Okay, yeah. So 4 products. I'll just include it because it was end of last year. 4 products in the last 8 months, whatever. And it's been a power bank, a drone.
3 too.
Oh yeah, podcasts again. Like okay, so 5 products. So none of them, only one of them has been a drone. It just keeps getting worse. We're not making it
We're
better.
not adding new products to the drone lineup. I know.
Yeah.
I know.
So
Like even here it says, "What's new? Power Avata 2,
RS4 came out late last year. The Mic 2s came out late last year.
Pocket 3."
Yeah. So the last drone of the Avata 2s and was Mini 4 Pro, right?
Yeah, which was last year.
Which was like mid last year. So
yeah, it is very puzzling on where DJI is going with their product line.
It's very much. This seems like this is a year for diversification for them. How do they not rely too much on their drone revenue, and how do they make revenue elsewhere with using their existing technology?
I just still find it interesting. How can a tech? I mean, DJI is a tech powerhouse.
It is. I mean, they're no longer a drone company. They're a tech company.
Yeah. How can they run without a face of the company?
It is. I mean, it seems. I mean, I don't know. Does BYD have a face of the company that comes out and talks all the time?
I believe so. Yeah. Yeah, and they're very active. I mean, I'm not just talking about in the international market, right? Because any domestic market, you always have like your tech community. You always have your entrepreneur group where you go out and do all the speeches, go participate in events. DJI doesn't do any of that.
The only company, fairly Chinese company, I interact a lot with their CEO is Altel. So that's it. And like Insta360, I've never seen their CEO at an event before, but he could be speaking. BYD, I don't know. Maybe they do. I don't follow BYD, but
because BYD is not popular in North American market.
I don't think. Yeah. Man, they're not going to make it either because as soon as they start shipping cars over here, they're going to get banned. But
I mean,
I wish they would. I know they have the smart. Yeah, it's like they don't. I wish BYD would because I would be able to afford an electric car finally. But DJI is having a weird year. They're having one of those. How old is DJI again? When did they start?
2013, I believe, because they just had a decade of
2006.
2006, really?
Yeah, that's when
that's when they were producing the RC parts.
Yeah, so they're 17 years old. They're just coming of age. DJI just finally just coming of age. They're having a coming of age year. That's what it is. We'll just stick with that.
Yeah. Well, you know what? So updates this week is we've got good news. The DJI ban is not happening from the Senate. But the question mark is still who's really going to be the alternative to DJI products, and that's not a Chinese manufacturer, right? And then number 2 is where is DJI going with their product line? We also don't know.
Yeah.
So on that note, that's all the update we have for you this week. And next week, I believe we're going to try going live with Starlink and DJI Power when Kirk is camping.
We'll try. I'm at EA Oshkosh, and I have to reach out to their communication team, or I might see them tomorrow, and I'll try to set up some sort of cool venue that we can maybe stream from, but no promises.
Stay
tuned. I want to try it.
We'll see you next week.